to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moment of silence, please. Please have a seat. If you have a cell phone, please make sure it's on silent, shut it off, or make sure I don't make any noises throughout the meeting. Roll call.
Karlovic.
Here.
Reichner.
Here.
Reese.
Here.
Brochus.
Here.
Ister.
A special meeting was held on January 20, 2020 to review and discuss proposals from consultants regarding the STEM program. An executive session was held on January 20th, 2020 to discuss possible litigation. Is there any audience comments on agenda items only at this time?
Quick drive around the city and I've noticed.
So this is just for agenda items only?
Yes, yes. The parking lot at the fire department on the, I think it's the Goodwill, is in really poor condition. Okay, that's all.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Linda Sterling?
I have two items of business for you to consider tonight. First is the subrecipient agreement between the City of Sunbury and the Sunbury Fire Department. That is for a CDBG grant of $3,000 to create a training facility. If you remember, the original project was an HC monitor project. About a year ago that I came to you on behalf of the department saying that they had an opportunity to create a training facility and would prefer to use their CDBG money for that. We approved it. They are ready to, they have started and are ready to finalize that project, and we just need to, need to ask you to pass an agreement that allows them to use the money. They're saying that they will follow the rules, and you're saying that you're going to give them the funding. It's the typical subrecipient agreement.
I'll make that motion.
Thanks.
Reichner.
Yes.
Reese.
Yes.
Brochus.
Yes.
Ister.
Yes.
Karlovic.
Yes.
The second is a memorandum of understanding between the city and the housing authority. This one's a little different in that the Housing Authority of Sunbury will be getting emergency services grants funding from the state, not CDBG funding, but it requires an environmental review, just like CDBG funding does. So this is a memorandum of understanding that says we, the council, understand that the Housing Authority would like to use the environmental review program. The Housing Authority is going to pay for those services, but they will be approved and used under the certifying officer of the city.
I'll make that formal motion. Second.
Reese.
Yes.
Brochus.
Yes.
Ister.
Yes.
Karlovic.
Yes.
Reichner.
Yes.
Great, and then I have one last thing. I'd like to introduce everybody to Mitzi Long. Mitzi works for CEDACOG, and she will be taking over here in Sunbury. It'll be a transition, certainly not anything that's going to happen quickly or overnight. I'm being relocated into Shamokin, so we're bringing Mitzi to you because we know that she has a lot of experience that will be helpful in the city.
Welcome to the team.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's it for me, unless you have questions.
That sucks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Three Alphabas.
Mayor, council members, tonight I get to wear my hat as a solicitor for the Redevelopment Authority and bring forth some positive news on the Action Winter Blight program. Tonight we have before you our regular set of resolutions where we have a number of properties that are ready to be removed from our public nuisance list. We have a few that are going on, and we just want to update things so we can get things moving forward. In the agenda, it's broken out by, there are a total of 5 that are ready to be removed. The first 2, you'll note 241, 243 Penn Street, that was purchased by the redevelopment authority through the tax lien sale process. 242 Church Street was purchased by the city with redevelopment authority's help through the eminent domain process. So what we'd like to do is recommend that you remove it from the public nuisance list and put it on the Sunbury Land Bank list, because we're having bigger conversations about maybe what to do with that whole block at this point, and there are a couple other parcels that are involved. So until we know next directions or have those conversations, that would be helpful. So the first 2 resolutions that are in front of you are pretty straightforward, that you as City Council are then able to act as the Board of Health, determining what properties are designated as public nuisance properties and which ones can be taken off. And so you have one, again, for 241, 243 Penn Street in front of you and 242 Church Street. They're in identical position just as far as ownership of one city and one survey.
But I'm sorry.
Maybe we should remove those 2.
Second.
Brochus,
Yes.
Eister,
Yes.
Karlovic,
Yes.
Reichtner,
Yeah.
Reese.
Yes.
And again, it's fun to remove them because that means that there's been progress made with the properties. 140, 142 North 5th Street is also ready to be removed. This is a case of where we had, actually the property owner lived in Egypt, so it was our first international project. And we had a local property owner step up, purchase the property, is in the process or has completed putting a new roof on, has a plan with the code office, and progress has been made to the comfort level that it's time to say congratulations, it's a success story. So we'd like to remove that property, or recommend that you remove it. I guess what I'll do is do all 3 at once again. I think that's sufficient for you. 857 North 7th Street and 1144 Market Street are both cases where one is a city property owner, the other is a couple. They have, again, worked with the code office and done everything possible to bring the property up to code. So, well, it might now sound the same success story as it's going through the full eminent domain process, and fight against blight is a success. So that being said, all 3 of these we put forward as a recommendation. Go ahead and remove them from the list.
Make that a motion to remove those 3.
Second.
Eister,
Yes.
Brochus,
Yes.
Karlovic,
Yes.
Reichtner,
Yes.
Reese.
Yes.
Okay, so we also have 3 that need to be added to the list. And these go through the process of being reviewed by the code office and then the redevelopment authority, and then before you as a recommendation. We have 154, 156 North 4th Street, 514 North 7th Street, and 460 Arch Street, which is really sometimes referred to as just Arch and 5th Streets as a point on lot. I will note 154, 156 North 4th Street is occupied. So it would remain a city project for you to determine if you want to do something city-oriented with it. The redevelopment authority only deals with vacant abandoned properties. This public nuisance level, though, applies to all. So, hopefully the process of putting them on the list will help us get through those steps.
Make a motion to add those to the list.
Second.
Karlovic,
Yes.
Reichtner,
Yes.
Reese,
Yes.
Eister,
Yes.
Brochus.
Yes.
And the final resolution before you is simply taking into account those removals and additions, getting our current list of the public nuisance properties before you. And, well, it sounds like we're adding 5, or adding 3, taking away 5, and we're constantly doing a stance. I know at the recent redevelopment authority meeting, it helped to hear that of those properties, we actually have 14 in eminent domain. 17 of them owners are working on, which again is kudos to the community for stepping up. And we have a few newbies that we're just watching to see which direction it takes. Thank you for being part of that process.
Thank you.
For future reference, are you able to bring in before and after pictures of these properties?
Absolutely, and we're actually in the process of, I know last meeting you talked about the city website being updated. As a component of that, the RA's portion will be updated, and we'll have those before and after pictures. So work in progress, so bear with us, but it shouldn't be too long. So that hopefully will be helpful then. Even as we start to line up, I did mention we have 14 in eminent domain, so we're anticipating having some spring auctions. so if anyone's interested in copies, those will be on the website.
Thank you.
You need a
I was gonna say, we need a motion now. Anyway.
I'll second it.
Reichner,
Yes.
Reese,
Yes.
Brochus,
Yes.
Ister,
Yes.
Karlovic.
Thank you.
Whereas this unique service of Pennsylvania 811 provides an easy-to-use one-call notification about excavation projects to know what's below the surface, and whereas Pennsylvania 811 is an important system to use in order to minimize damage to underground utility lines, danger to construction workers, environmental pollution, and loss of utility service to Pennsylvanian citizens, and whereas Pennsylvania 811 annually receives more than 800,000 notification requests and transmits more than 6 million notifications, providing protection to utility companies, their employees, customers, and to the general public. And whereas we are thankful for the service provided by Pennsylvania 811, encourage all residents, engineers, designers, excavators, and homeowners to dial 811 in advance before an excavation project such as planting a tree, installing a mailbox post, building a deck or fence, in order to know what's below to avoid injury or damage. And more information regarding 811 may be obtained by visiting www.pa811.org. And now therefore be it resolved that I, Kirk Close, being the mayor of the city of Sunbury, County of Northumberland, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and on behalf of the city of Sunbury council members and citizens, do hereby declare the month of April 2020 as Pennsylvania 811 Safe Digging Month. All right. Make a motion to close. I don't see it. It's just around kind of Make a motion to close Market Street, 2nd and 3rd around Cameron Park for October 24th and for December 12th. October 24th will be for the Fall for the Arts Festival, and December 12th for It's a Wonderful Art Fest. Do I have a second?
Brochus,
Yes.
Ister,
Yes.
Karlovic.
Yes.
Reichner,
Yes.
Reese.
Whereas Sunbury Revitalization Inc. is sponsoring the following event, Brews on Lake Augusta at Riverfront Park on September 19th, 2020 from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Now therefore be it resolved, the open container ordinance requirements as listed in Chapter 121 of the Code of the City of Sunbury shall be effective as a special exception as provided for in Section 121.3F1 for a nonprofit organization. I make this into a formal motion to accept the open container waiver for Brews on Lake Augusta.
Second.
Karlovic,
Yes.
Reichner,
Yes.
Reese,
I'm going to abstain, just to be safe, because I'm the chair of that event.
Sounds good.
Ister,
Yes.
Brochus.
Yes.
All right, Councilman Reese, Sunbury Fire Department.
So, I live January, that's one of the things that fall under the code office, and we met with new chief Brad Wertz, and there were some concerns that came up about one of the stations that he expressed to us. So I'm just gonna kind of pass it over to him to relay those concerns to the rest of the council, and then we can move forward from there.
All right, basically, what happened was I came to Mayor Karlovic and Councilman Reese, basically to introduce myself and the chief staff, find out what he was looking for from our chief staff throughout the next 2 years. We also got on the discussion of the department, and I brought up about the number ones and feeling that they were more of a liability to the department. And after sitting down and talking to them, we came up with the conclusion that, and this went through the fire department executive board, that we are going to give them 60 days to bring their staff up to where we feel they need to be to provide the adequate fire protection. Right now, they are out of service for the next 60 days. Speaking with their captain of the truck floor, he felt better being out of service and taking and doing the training that way, so there was no liability there as far as injury to other personnel or his personnel. That way, they can get the training they need and everything without having to worry about that. After the 60 days is up, which comes in March 14th, I believe, we're going to sit down and evaluate them, see how everything goes, and then basically go from there on a decision what we're doing.
Okay, so, thank you. So the question that'll come before us is the funding. So it's kind of precedent from when this happened before with the Goodwills. Recommendation was to stop funding at this time while they're out of service, and then hold that money in escrow, and then when they go back into service, release all funds, and should they not go back into service, then reestablish at that time, or just delay it until they go back in. So my motion at this time is to do that, to hold the money in escrow while out of service, and then with plans of getting back once they go back into service.
And I'll second that.
Just okay, you guys want to pay that step every 3 months now, am I correct?
Yeah,
So they're going to be back in service before this even.
yeah, basically, they're not gonna receive any funding until the end of March anyway, so they could very well be back in service.
We'll just do it now in case
Formalize.
we extend the 60, we don't have to come back to this additional then.
Right.
Yeah,
I want to add, I know Danny, you've been working with them, trying to get them turned around. There's some other people trying,
As much as they let me.
right? It's not our intent to try to put them out of business.
we would hope that they could get back to being able to be serviced, but right now, I believe there was only 1 or 2 that,
I was gonna say, right now, basically what I'm looking at, I don't care about what they do as far as the bar, I'm looking at the truck floor. I mean, my whole thing is, I can't have 6 or 7 guys going to the scene, just standing there watching, they're more of a liability to the department and the city if they would get hurt, you know, just being in the way, going to a call, red light siren, you know, and then just getting there watching the rest of the firefighters doing the work. I mean, that's a liability, just taking that truck to a call just to sit there and watch. You know, and that's one piece of apparatus that we won't have to worry about then, as far as anything going wrong with it. But like I said, as of right now, I mean, this is what we're looking at. We're not looking at putting them out of service. We made it very clear. I gave them the letter that you guys have up there with a list of stuff that we're looking at. You know, basically it's all everyday engine operations that we're looking at for out of them, which they should know how to do.
So this is something that just didn't happen. You're the
No,
fourth chief.
this has been going on for the past 12 years.
Well, but you're the fourth
But-
chief that I personally went through this with.
Right. I mean, this has been going on for the past 12 years, and it just seems like they're looking at 1 or 2 people to keep them in service. And now I sat down and told them, listen, it's not gonna be just 1 or 2 people, it's your whole station that needs to perform.
so yeah, to answer your question, we'll see in 6 days how far they get, and be able to extend it. We gave the right that we can extend it, or we go from there.
I told them make sure they get all their opportunities to train them and then so
Yeah,
forth.
especially if they're showing progress over the 60 days, there's no reason not to extend 60 days.
Right.
Volunteers are hard enough to find.
Reichner?
Okay, it's the time of the year again where we're gonna put out.
No, we're voting.
Voting, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
Reese? Ister? Brochus?
Yes.
Karlovic?
Yes. Now, Councilman.
Okay, we're at the time of the year again where we're gonna put out for bids for our accountant. I make a motion that we.
Yeah, we haven't really done this as long as I've been in office, and I don't think it's been done much before that. I think we should look at the opportunity to go out, and no, this is for,
This is for our audit.
for cities money. We got, let's go see what's out there and see if we can find somebody who just does nothing but municipal audits, and we were in some companies that have done this at some seminars and stuff, so I thought we might just put out there and see what's out there, just take a glimpse for, the city's audit.
So I'll make a motion that we go ahead and do that.
Second.
Brochus?
Yes.
Karlovic?
Yes.
Reichner?
Yes,
Reese?
Yes.
Ister.
Yes.
And, last Thursday, we had a meeting of the pension fund, and on your request, I brought up about putting the bid out for dealing with the pension, because it hasn't been put out for bid since 2007. So we make a motion that we put out for bid handling of the pension fund for the police department.
But does the union have to vote on that too, Brad, or is it?
No, it's a police pension board. We brought it up years ago, and I know when Terry was here, we were talking about getting things around. It's kind of like housekeeping, you should do it every 5, I think we have it. Like 3 or 5, we have it written down somewhere. But it's just easy, it hasn't been done in a while, just to be safe.
Yeah, and the board agreed to do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's healthy.
Second.
Ister.
Yes.
Brochus.
Yes.
Karlovic.
Yes.
Reichtner.
Yes.
Reese.
Yes.
Okay, I'm looking for approval to pay invoices and vouchers payable from the general fund for $44,456.87. I make that a motion.
Second.
Karlovic.
Yes.
Reichtner.
Yes.
Reese.
Yes.
Ister.
Yes.
Brochus.
Yes.
Just thought, guys, we have one more month before money comes in, so please watch spending for one more month.
Mr. Mayor, before we go to unfinished business, it's not on the agenda. Joel Weiss was going to bring it up. Of course, he's not here this morning or this evening. This past week, the Woodring family asked to see council, Chris Reese, myself, and Rick was there. Kurt, you were out of town, but I thought you were at work anyhow, and I did talk to Josh about it. What the situation was, the Woodring family made the city of Sunbury an offer. We were just there as a fact finding. We took the offer and brought it back, and we did discuss it the other evening in your council chambers there, Mr. Mayor. I just feel that we ought to take a look at that property, and like we did the property on Chestnut Street regarding the police department.
So what are you recommending?
Just have the preliminary from the architect do a walkthrough, get some kind of idea what the cost is there. We know the rough cost of that property down there, $1 million plus, we don't know where. But I think trying to save some money is, well, you know what the offer is. And
So are you recommending so there was a 4-step process that went through in the Arch Street, on the Chestnut Street process?
I think we should do at least the first step.
Feasibility, so the $2,500.
And where are we gonna get the money from?
Out of my department.
So why, after the last 2 years of our committee that we approved, or is this property being brought up again?
Well, like I explained to you the other night, the offer was just made to us last week.
And it was a meeting with a quorum of council members and our solicitor.
That's correct. It wasn't a quorum, we were fact finding.
And there's 3 council members there.
That doesn't make it,
The
that doesn't make it.
solicitor, Mr. Mayor, the solicitor, you and him went over this and over this.
Okay, and this
If you
is a
wanna argue with the
close
solicitor,
personal friend, you are the
Oh,
Woodring family.
very good friend.
I
Yes,
hope that
of
you
the
recuse
family.
yourself from the vote.
Yes, of the family, yes. I'm trying to save taxpayers money. You don't
So
care
are we.
about it, apparently.
And we owe it to the taxpayers to take a look at another thing if it's obviated out there. In my eyes, as a finance guy, I mean, if we have an opportunity out there to save money somewhere, I think we should be doing that.
No, I'm all for
Just
that, I just
refutable
don't
with
like
the
how,
tax dollars.
the sneakiness is starting to come around in 2020. I thought 2020 was starting to move forward.
Well, first of all, Mr. Mayor, they contacted you first.
And I contacted our solicitor, and the solicitor contacted you and said it's not a good idea that a quorum meet with them.
That's not true.
Too bad our solicitor's sick today.
Yes.
I think this should be tabled until the last meeting, since it
I'll
was
make that
on
a
the
formal motion.
agenda
I
for the public to actually review and be prepared to ask questions about.
I have a question about, you talking about saving taxpayer money. Do we have any type of numbers from an architect on the current department that we have now that we can bring forth to the public and say, all right, where we're at now, we know it's not ideal, but to say this is what it would cost here, and then we can bring those numbers, say, we'll say it costs X amount of dollars. Then we can compare it to all the properties we have so they know what the options are all together, so they don't think we're wasting taxpayer money and saying this is what we believe is the best option. Do we have any numbers on that current building at all?
Yeah. So I mean, we know right up front that the cost for an elevator is almost $200,000. We know that
So what, I mean, we have a total number, like we'll say, is it 500,000 or 6,
we
7?
didn't pursue it, and I can tell you why, because so the committee's job, the committee was put together to form not only price, but the committee was put together to form feasibility of office, feasibility of policing, quality policing, and how the long-term structure of the department would work, whether it was that building or any building. Through 2 police chiefs and through a captain of 2 years of meeting, all 3 of them said that that building is not built for quality policing. Because it's a 3-story building, so you have multiple floor policing. So you have the 2nd floor that's office space, 1st floor. Also, it only has 1 entrance in the front. So there's a safety concern of bringing people in and out of 1 entrance. So regardless of cost, that building was not deemed to be feasible as a police station long-term.
Then why, like I said, I'm only new, I'm here for 3 weeks, but why has it been okay for the last 15 plus years, now all of a sudden it's not okay anymore, and now it has to get done right away?
Because it was free. And have you been in the police station?
I did do a tour with Brad, but
So what's your thoughts on the building?
my thoughts on the building, and like I said, I'm not pointing fingers at past, I'm just saying what I observed. It has not been taken care of, just like most of the properties in Sunbury that the city owned has not been taken care of. Like, the mayor went on, I don't know where he went on, I forget, sorry, but it's gonna cost the city X amount of dollars, we're trying to get funds to fix up the pool coming here in the future. There's money has to be dumped into this building to make it, heating systems, whatever working. Down in my building, down at the city barn, there's money has to be put into there, so.
Okay, and to answer your question, which director has been in charge of public property for 20 years?
I have been.
I'm not pointing fingers at anybody, it's
No
still
problem.
council's problem, it's taxpayers' problem as
Mr.
well.
Mayor, let's go borrow $1 million, start fixing everything up.
Okay.
Hey, there we are.
We're trying to have a serious conversation.
Well, besides the conversation, the bickering back and forth, you may be in disagreement, I just say as taxpayers, if they know it's gonna cost, for example, $700,000 to fix up that building, at least we can justify to them saying, hey, $1.1 million on the building is a reasonable price compared to the $700,000 that we're currently in. I'm just using that as an example.
So the only disadvantage to doing that is you'd be paying the full cost to go through to do the feasibility study. So you're talking, well, what was it, 12,000 or 6,000, whatever it was to go
It
through
was
that process.
6,500.
So we could go through that, but then that's more taxpayer money for a building that ultimately is not feasible long-term. So Brad, I can turn it over to Brad, you've been a part of it.
And let me answer the question, he questioned, back in 2003 when we got that building. The goal was not to be there long-term. In essence, it got away from the city and us. It got away from the police department and the city. Long-term goals in the 21st century policing, that building is not conducive for a police department. There's no rear access, there's the front, the whole building itself is not set up the way they're building police departments nowadays for 21st century policing. So that's why that building, we had several architects actually go through that building, and I think every one of them said this is just not conducive for a police department. It's just not. And again, 2003 wasn't supposed to be long-term, it just got away from us.
And just to kind of bring you, Josh, up to speed on kind of the whole process, so the committee started back right when I started on council. We kind of were thrown this and said, hey, go figure it out. And then we met for a while, we figured there was no money, but then last year we started reinvigorating it. We started meeting, we came down to 2 options at the end that we presented to council. We held a public meeting, we allowed every taxpayer to come to the meeting. And those 2 options were the Arch Street property, which Jim brought up tonight, and the Chestnut Street warehouse. The Chestnut Street one was chosen to pursue first because it was already off the tax roll. It was an option that was not on the current tax roll, so we figured why not see what that would be, at least to do, a building that we already own, rather than moving us from one building we don't own to a building that we own to a building we don't own. The Arch Street property, we did receive a different offer, so obviously that brings it back up for conversation. If the money is there to do it in your department to do that feasibility and you want to do the money for that, probably doesn't hurt to at least do a feasibility, but my fear would be to stop the process of the other one would halter the whole thing altogether. So we met today, you guys were there, I feel for them, Josh, I didn't talk to you, we met today with USDA. to start the funding options that are available out there for municipal services. One of those options, renewals option, was loans. So obviously the USDA has a loan program that's a locked interest rate for 35 years. You can apply for the entire project, including outfitting it with supplies and everything in there. And then you can search for grants alongside of it to supplement that loan cost. So as long as we're gonna move forward with, if you wanna move forward with feasibility, the nice thing about at least starting that process is it can be used for either property. So it doesn't hurt in the long run to check it just to make sure, but we don't wanna, because that application is a 6-month application to do that. So we don't wanna stop the process entirely, so whatever there's, you know.
And if I can just give a little history also on the police department itself. The police department was on the first floor in this building for many, many years. Then they were pushed down to the basement. That's where I started. Then from the basement, we went down to 440 Market Street, because the building was given to us. In 21st, and I keep using this term, the 21st century policing, we're not just talking about just the officers that are working there and the staff. We're also talking about the public. We have a duty and obligation to the public, and not unfortunately, but that public also deals with people we're dealing with in the street, criminals. We have to make sure that the building is conducive for them also. And that is a big thing nowadays, and that's what they're pressing in policing now. And we have adapted, we've changed dramatically in this department, and not just Sunbury, but all across the valley and all across America. So that's why it's so important right now that we keep moving, keep that momentum moving forward, not looking back and saying, well, what happened, or we're looking forward. And I'm glad everybody's so passionate about this, because we need to move forward. Again, it's not conducive. The conditions right now are, they're unacceptable, not just for me or the guys down there or the officers down there, but it's unacceptable for the public and the people we deal with on the day in and day out. We have to move forward, and I think we're addressing it. And that's what I do like about this. We are addressing the issue. I know everybody's, hot under the collar and passionate about it, but we are addressing the issue. And so the public, because we're getting feedback from the public, we are addressing it. So, and that's a little history about where we've been. We've never had our own place to go to. We've always just been kind of pushed into a corner where we, unfortunately, liability-wise, we can't have it anymore. We can't. So.
And taking this one step further, Josh, due diligence, when this started, and it's 2 years, a little better than 2 years, probably longer than that. We first were looking at building a police station, okay? To do the feasibility on that. Looking for a location, buy land, tear the building down, that's on some land, and then it came to prefabricated the building, either that we own or that was up for sale. And we did a lot of time. We had contractors in, we had different people in, we went through buildings and looked at stuff, and it came down to, definitely it wasn't feasible to buy property and build a new one, okay? That was the most expensive route to get. And then as it transpired, it came down to 3 buildings, and then it was narrowed to 2 buildings. And that's where it came. It wasn't feasible to go back in there. At one time, we thought we might even be able to tear the building down next to it and do something that way, but the cost of that.
There's still no rear egress either.
Right, well,
You can't get,
yeah, but I mean, at any rate, it wasn't something that was done over a week, a month, or 6 months. It was well over 2 years that we were in that. And the committee, Chris and myself and Brad, Chief Miller at the time, when he was started, Captain Benning, John Shipman was part of it, Derek Wolfgang was part of it, Ryan Betts was part of it. Gary Wolf, the architect. So we had people, and we met religiously, going over this stuff and doing this stuff. And this is what we came to, but it was a 2-year process.
Yeah, and at the end of the first, so when we stopped the first process because of all the money issues and things, before we restarted last year, the only thing that we got out of the first time we went through was a unanimous vote from council to realize that that was not a location and realize that we would have to move out of that location. So that was the only thing that came from the first time, really.
Yes.
And the second time, it was more Jody kind of taking the lead on that as far as getting us all in a room to really look at numbers and look at options and locations. And that we started out with a bunch of options and we came down to those 2.
So it was a very deliberate process following a a standardized process, and the reason that we do that is to try to eliminate as much as possible bias. So looking at the numbers, independently going, okay, well, what do the professional organizations say about square footage? Does that make sense for us? We adjust a little bit. We don't just take what it says in that national recommendation, because this is what's called evidence-based practice, right? You probably know that term. So you look at what's out there in the literature, but you still use your critical thinking and say, well, this part applies, this one we need to modify a little bit, and we went through that exercise. So we came up with the square footage requirements, and then we evaluated each building option against those objective requirements that we came up with each of those buildings. And it came out that the Art Street building was a bit small for what we had put down as our requirements. So if the feasibility is to be done, of course, it'll use the same square footage requirements that we had come up with, and say, can we use that building, and can we achieve the same functionality that we're looking for in the warehouses? You know, that's the goal. The objective goal is to have a highly functioning police station.
And the architect that currently Rocky Bear that is doing it, they have done several police departments in this area right now. They've done several.
So how far are we gonna, you talked about it's gonna cost $12,000?
$6,000.
$6,000, sorry. So is it gonna cost $6,000 to do
Our street?
the feasibility on that, or?
Jim asked tonight for the feasibility. My assumption would be just to determine if that even is actually reasonable as a police station. Because we don't know the answers to that, because we did know from our original assessment that if that building, why it wasn't chosen originally, was that building would need an expansion built onto it to act feasibly as a police station. Because it was not, we needed over 6,000 square feet, that building's just under 5.
Does that go by personnel when you spoke on square
It goes
footage?
by personnel, it goes by square footage of locker rooms, square footage of evidence rooms, square footage of all the added rooms that you need outside of just personnel. And we've always based it on a number of 10 to 12 officers total, long-term, is what we've always based this off of.
And, because I think some of the other reason we want that size too is because we always talk about regionalization. That's one of the aspects down the road, if we ever have that opportunity to regionalize, that we're able to absorb, if, let's say, Sunbury's the hub. You know, we have a new building, that's gonna look better for the regionalization aspect of it, to absorb the other departments, if that ever comes to fruition. Not saying it's happening, but we always talk about that, because that's again, that's the thing people are going to, is the regionalization. That's why we look at it also, is to make sure we can absorb that amount of people.
And what I don't want to do is diminish your thought about the current building, because I do get where you're coming from, where if we move from that building, there's another vacant building on Market Street, next to an vacant open building on Market Street. Where I think long-term, and Brianna's here, I think that's a redevelopment authority conversation long-term, that those two buildings need to go into that conversation of redevelopment authority to come up with a plan.
They're not the only buildings on Market Street that probably should go in there
But
either.
they would be the two that are right next to each other. The city owns one, and the city potentially could own the other one if we really wanted to go after it, with how bad it is. That now we could come up with maybe a project plan of an investor or something there that, who knows what that option could be. But we have more options there than we may have in other places. Does that make sense?
No, I understand.
Mayor, may I interject on here, as controller? I'm in a little bit of a disadvantage, kind of like Josh, because we're the new kids on the block, okay? And certainly wasn't part of any committee that, got started 2-3 years ago. And I understand what you're saying, that, we need to do something different, okay? I get that. Now, did you say you were looking for like about a 6,000 square foot building? Okay, and the current Wood Green property is what, like 5?
49.
48, roughly 5, okay. Well, to add another 1,000 square feet, that isn't any bigger than this room. Okay, so this room is probably more than 1,000 square feet. Figure 20 by 50 is 1,000 square feet. But anyways, so I don't think you'd be looking at a big addition. I'm not advocating one way or the other. What I'm saying though, as your controller and being tasked with, some of the things that we've talked about over the years, keeping an eye on finances and that sort of thing, I would have to agree with Josh from the standpoint, I think we owe it to the taxpayers, okay, understanding you already spent 2 years on this and are in the middle of the process, I think we owe it to the taxpayers of the city to investigate all possible options. And now, and the fact now that we have a new proposal, you're saying, that maybe we should be doing that, that's all.
Sure.
That's all right.
I agree with you there, where we should investigate.
Just don't want to be starting
We're
over.
kicking the can down the road for how
So a
long?
new offer,
The new
comes to
offer,
light,
yes,
that's the reason to
Yeah.
take
But I
a
do
look,
agree,
but
put
not start
in
over.
the application, it goes with the, your,
You start the process,
right,
if nothing
exactly.
else.
So
Well, yeah, I'm
we're not
fine
gonna
with
go to the
that.
banks anyway,
Yep.
too.
Exactly.
Yeah, now I'm fine with the funding process, yeah, keep moving.
And a new offer does make a new, so where we presented it to the public, it's different from what it was at that point. So there's no doubting that. Long term, is it still feasible for a police department? And when we originally said it was up in the air, but who knows, if the cost comes in at half the cost,
Yes,
it
then it's
obviously
right.
makes sense.
If you
But-
can save a couple $100,000, it's right.
But we don't know that, so that's where it is an advantage to potentially do
And
that.
that's why the feasibility study should be done, just to find out.
It's fine. So,
And $1 million loan at 3%, you're paying back 1.5 something, so remember, $1 million is $500,000 repay on interest.
the hope would be not to have.
Yes,
to do
exactly,
that.
hopefully it's lower, it's lower than
Yeah.
that, but that's just going off at 3%.
Once again, we'll put that back on the table as a motion.
It's just to do the first part, the 2,500,
Yes.
and then revisit.
I'll second.
I just have one more question, I don't know, when, how do I say this? When will the public know what the building's gonna cost the city? I don't know if you can say that now or tonight, I don't know.
Which one?
The one that, the would,
Feasibility.
Pretty quick.
is that will come in there in the feasibility, where the
No.
public will know how much the building's gonna cost the city,
It's
or?
the fourth step of the process.
Alright, so I know how much, I didn't know, because obviously people are gonna ask,
Wait, which building are you talking about?
the one on Arch Street that we're gonna look into, so,
Yeah, we would, so basically the first step would be feasibility. If they say, no, this could not work as a police station, that kind of puts a.
damper rent,
You're
okay.
done. If they say, yes, this building is good for a police station, then we have to come back here and decide whether to do steps 2, 3, and 4, which was an initial drawing, and an opinion of probable cost based off of that drawing.
Okay.
That was another, it was a 6,000 total,
Yeah,
correct?
about 65.
Yeah, so that's where the other 4,000 would come in, and that time then we'll make sure the money's there. And then as soon as that step's done, then the public would know exactly what that cost is, at the same time we find out what that cost is. That's exactly what happened with the Chestnut Street one.
But I'm just saying up at the initial cost of the building itself.
The
How
acquisition
much
cost.
it is?
Yeah, I mean, do they have the right to know that now, or did they wait till that? That's what I'm
Yeah,
asking.
no, because that would put the seller at a disadvantage.
Okay,
It's not fair.
okay, that's what I was just asking, because I imagine someone's probably gonna ask that sometime.
Sure, yeah, then that wouldn't be fair to the selling family at that point then.
Motion, second. We ready to vote?
Yeah.
Ister,
Yes.
Reichner,
Yes,
Brochus,
No,
Karlovic,
Yes.
Reese,
Yes. And then I will put on the table a motion to do an application through USDA for a pre-approval,
Pre-application.
pre-application, excuse me, for up to $1.5 million in loan funded. And that is with the expectation of hopefully not having to use all of that, but just knowing that all costs out there, who knows what the final cost will be of any property. And this could also be
How much did you say, Chris?
1.5 is the number I'm saying, of potential loan. But again, that's not with the expectation of going down the road of doing that, it's just what she told us in our meeting today. We'd rather be, exactly, better be safe than sorry and do an application way high for what you wanna do, get approved for that amount, and then back it down based off of the grants that you get. So I'd rather us, if it comes down to where we finance $1 million, and instead of applying for $1 million, and with total cost it's 1.1 million, I'd rather us just do the 1.5 and be safe, and not have to go through another 6-month process to get a $100,000 increase. The goal would be though, we're gonna explore all grant options out there, and it may not even work to do it at $1 million or whatever is in loans. We don't know that until we look into the debt service like we started to kind of talk about today. We're a long way away from that process, but this loan application is 6 months. Go ahead.
I have a question, so obviously it's gonna cost money, there's no question about it. Now, do we, I mean, I don't know, if I just came here, do we have an amount that we're willing to say, okay, if the loan covers half of it, we're gonna take on the other half? Or it's just like, all right, the loan's only gonna cover 25%, we're gonna take on the 75%? Do we,
Out-of-pocket costs?
Yeah, so-
We'll be taking on no out-of-pocket costs.
but I'm talking about, I mean, obviously we're gonna have to take a loan for something, if, worst case scenario, it's still gonna cost the city money over time.
Sure.
So do we have amount that, right, we're not gonna pay any more than this, we have to reach this number?
You're talking about annual payment?
Yes,
Okay, so that's our debt service tax. So what we talked about today is we have how much coming on?
55,000
We have about 55,000
on a
in debt
yearly
service.
payment,
Yep,
and
that we
that's gonna
could,
be 35 years.
yes.
so you're gonna, so my question is, so no matter what this building costs, it's not gonna raise taxpayer, it's not gonna raise,
I can say my personal thing for, say publicly, I won't vote to raise taxes to
Yes.
this.
I won't
I won't do it.
So-
Because I think we can do it without raising taxes.
so
As long as
I,
we don't come into somebody, Josh, and somebody astronomical comes in or a surprise in a building or something like that, we should be fine because we have to assume debt, which city somewhere is.
Yeah.
Doesn't have that much left. Before.
I'm sorry,
Keep collecting the 2 mills of taxes, we still have to collect $105,000 worth of debt.
And that's where the 1.5 million number kind of comes into that realm.
Uh,
Payment would be like
1.5 is a little
60.
high in my eyes.
It would be like 60 or 70 a month roughly.
55, it gets you about 1.2.
Okay, so that's
At
where,
that 3% interest.
yeah.
And, you know, the numbers that I've been running on
But if the
calculators and stuff.
interest rate comes in lower, we could be in a better spot.
Yes,
So-
it'd be nice if it comes in at 2.
That's where, again, worst case, absolute worst case, because we know there's grants out there, we know there's, we just found out today, there's potential grants for outfitting the building, there's grants out there for architectural services, down the road, we have to do full project planning and all that. So that's absolute.
worse.
And again, I don't know what any of you guys do, I won't vote to raise taxes to do it because.
And Chris, that 1.5, that includes outfit.
That includes
That's everything.
That's everything.
So I just wanna make sure, so I'm,
And Josh, the reason that also at the meeting today, we were advised by the USDA to take the whole thing because we want to make sure we have enough to cover the expenses. If we don't, and we gotta reapply, we gotta go from square one all over again. So we got it, that doesn't mean we have to use that 1.5 million, we could use 700,000. But we go through it and get approved for that, then we know we got the workings to do what we need to do. But we're not expecting that it would be that much.
Doesn't include the second floor.
No.
so I just wanna make sure I understand everybody here. So you're telling me, not just you, Chris, everybody else, so if this police department will raise taxes for the city of Sunbury through the debt tax, I mean, if worst case scenario, no one else, you're not, I mean, you said you were not gonna vote for it, Rick said you're not gonna vote for
I
it.
won't vote to raise taxes.
Josh, first of all, that's why I'm looking at another building.
Yeah.
$1 million scares me.
Yeah,
1.5 chokes me.
alright, I just wanna make sure because I wanna be in the same boat as everyone else, Rick, I don't want anyone else's taxes rate just like my own, so.
We also, again, I know it's a high number, Danville just voted to do $3.8 million for a police department.
Yes.
So, as much as I get that it's a high number, not
Not that much when it comes to the type of property.
how much
that
money
we're
and
creating.
what that will do for the community right there, getting a building that's boarded up windows, that's a blighted property that the city owns, and revamping it, basically.
What does Geisler have that we, or what does Danville have that we don't have?
But
That's a
still,
lot more money income.
Long down street.
Tax rates.
Pardon? Guys, there's long down too.
Yep, customers.
Oh, yes, but they're buying up downtown.
The debt that we make here for this department is debt somebody's gonna have 30 years down the line. So it's gonna be people who's gonna be filling our shoes and their shoes. So it's just not something simple debt, it's something that has to be fought long and hard through before, you know, we decide how much, where to go and everything else, you know, it's a,
And then with the Chestnut Street property, we have multiple uses. It could potentially be an investment property for the city, for the second floor itself.
could be avenues of revenue for the second floor as well. So that's my motion, is to at least start the process. Again, it's not locking us into anything, it's not costing us a penny. It's just starting the process, so that way, 3 months from now, if we brought up the same thing, we're not 9 months away instead of 6 months away.
I'll second it.
Reichtner,
Yes.
Reese,
Yes.
Eister,
Yes.
Brochus,
Yes.
Karlovic.
Yes. Grant writer, Ms. Hoffman?
No, yes.
So,
No, I do. So, last time we talked about the, proposal for a contracted, grant writer. And, our solicitor had some feedback on the, proposal itself to put in the language, preventing, there would be a non-compete clause as well as, not a automatic renewal. And that language was changed in the proposals and resubmitted by the grant writer. And so you have before you, there's the four grants per month option and the 10 grants per month option. The 4 grants per month is $500 a month. The 10 grants per month is $1,000 a month. And if we were not, as a city, able to use up all 10 of those grants in 1 month's time, that those grants could be made to service any other nonprofit organization. We would be choosing, to advance our comprehensive plan, advance our community economic development, more or less. So, so go ahead.
So the last time we tabled it because of the funding, we kind of did some exploring. I talked with the mayor about the police department and how the salaries were working in there. They had planned on doing a hire, but then there was the unexpected resignation. So there was a month's worth there of salaries potentially that would more than cover the cost associated with this, and he was okay with reallocating those funds, not slowing down the hiring process whatsoever, not delaying any hirings, but just reallocating the money from January that is not gonna be spent out because he resigned at the end of December. The only question, Kevin, that I think we would have for you is where that money, and this doesn't have to be decided now, but just what line item would make sense for that to be paid out of. Again, doesn't have to be now.
I'll have to look at it, yes.
We know the money's there to do it, it's just how it would be paid out would be kind of up to you guys at that point then. We obviously have seen a need for this, we just met this morning with PCD, and there's tons of grants out there that we didn't even know existed, that the city's missing out on, that we would love to start applying to. So, I'm gonna make a motion to accept the 10 grants a month contract.
I second it.
Karlovic.
Yes.
Reichner.
Yes.
Reese.
Yes.
Ister. Brochus.
Yes. And when can he begin, or they can begin?
Huh?
When can we-
February 1st is when the contract was set to begin, or when he's approved by the state to do it, because he has to register with the state to do a contract with us, so whichever one comes first. And then we'll go from there.
All right, Stan?
Right, so this has been the process, so the city did put in a grant application to participate in the strategic management planning program. And as part of that, we also did a request for proposals to look at consultant firms who could do that initial deep dive assessment on the financial status of the city and its projected over the next 5 years, as well as a analysis of our operational efficiencies. We had 2 proposals. The council did a special session last week and looked at the proposals and decided on to award it, or we're gonna do the vote now, although we discussed it and.
Yeah, Joel recommended we ratify the vote by just taking the second one based off of
So the consultant firm is called Management Partners, and their, the cost for the assessment is $63,900, of which we're responsible for 30%. And some of that, 10% of that can be in-kind services.
It'd be about 12 grand total, but it wouldn't be this year, it would be as early as next year, if you have time to plan for it.
So make that in the form of motion to accept this.
So,
Brochus.
Yes.
Karlovic.
Yes.
Reichner.
Yes.
Reese.
Yes.
Ister.
Cable television.
I have numbers for you, but I have to pull them up on my computer. So last we talked about this was, the council requested a audit. And so what I can get as far in terms of an audit is, I requested the numbers of subscribers over the last 3 to 5 years, and I can give you what those numbers are.
We just received the payment last week, and we dropped another $1,800.
Right, so 2016, there were 2,105 subscribers, just basic subscribers. 2017, 2061, 2018, 1,936, and 2019, 1,811. So you can see it's dropped by 100 subscribers every year since 2016.
What's our next step with them?
So then, if the council wanted to have a deeper kind of analysis and a type of an audit to verify the subscribers and whether or not the list was correct, you could do that at our own cost. And we would have to hire an accounting firm of some kind to do that. I did speak with Selinsgrove, they did that, and there was some plus and some minus, and it kind of evened out in the end. So they didn't have a big push for it, they thought it was a good idea, because it didn't really end up making much difference for them. But it's up to the council if you would like a further audit. Otherwise, Joel is prepared to draft the franchise agreement with an updated definition of who gets counted and how we count the gross revenues from those subscribers.
There was adding in some fees that were not being counted in before, right?
Yes.
So I think we should wait for him to do that.
So
You guys
he'll
will
do his thing, get it done.
Okay.
So the front window fronts or whatnot?
Okay, so we talked about the police department, that was the last thing here, I don't think we need to revisit that. And, but we do have an add-on, and that is for a property on Market Street, it's
448 Market.
448 Market Street. This is a mixed-use property where there's a residential apartment on the second floor, and it's a commercial use on the first floor. The request is to convert the commercial use space into residential use space. I'm looking at the gentleman who came with the proposal. In our ordinance, in 175-89, under the development of rental units, a current owner-occupied property or the property of the state owner may be converted into a single rental property as long as the property owner satisfies the following I'm reading wrong. Current commercial property may be converted into a rental property for residential use as long as the property owner satisfies the following requirements. One, that the city council approves the conversion, so we are the deciding authority on that. You are, not me. And that the conversion does not impact the character of the neighborhood. Those are the only two things. Now, there are some other things that Mike Rhodes brought up for consideration, as well as we would want to be careful about how we set precedent. If we allow this for this property in the central business zoning district, would we then see other properties in the central business district who are also having trouble renting out their commercial space request to convert to residential, and what would the impact be of our central business district? There have been conversions of commercial property to residential rentals in other zones. There was a commercial property that actually existed, probably grandfathered in a residential zone, that they then converted to a residential. It made sense for that residential zone to go ahead and make that conversion. The council needs to consider whether or not this would make sense, and you might want to take some time to consider that and consult with perhaps the zoning board and others before you make that decision, but that's up for your discussion.
Can I ask a question? You have the property? What's the square footage on that?
Just under 2,500 for the first
You want to
floor.
turn it into how many units?
Right now, just one unit.
One unit?
Historical review, have anything to say about this?
That's my question.
My concern is they make the living room up front, they open the curtains up during the evening hours, people driving by and everybody sitting in their living room watching TV.
No, the front won't be included. Yeah, so we're coming in through the rear, and in the back, we have,
So in other words, like the first 30 feet of
37
the
feet.
building, first floor, first 30 feet would be almost like it's still a commercial site?
right, the bow window there, that's not gonna be my office, that stays the way it is. You know what I mean, in the front there, you're talking, it comes out like.
Do you know the building we're talking about?
No.
It's on the other side of various restaurant.
It's the old shoe hospital.
Oh, I know where you're at now.
Really
Now,
grown.
you're gonna have commercial property in the front. And
That's his
then
office.
residential in the
Yeah,
back.
it's just gonna be a small area in the front, Probably just my office, we're not getting anybody.
Wouldn't then you need to change that address to Woodlawn Avenue?
For the rental unit.
You'd have to separate it. Wouldn't it have to be, Mike, wouldn't you have to do a subdivision on that? Because you're commercial and residential?
No, you won't have to do a subdivision, you would just be converging the two areas. It'd be a mixed-use occupancy. As far as addressing, I cannot give you an honest answer on that. That is something we'd have to get with the GIS department of Northumberland County.
I'm just looking to make that front room my office, really. We have so much square footage, one of the bedrooms are 27 feet long by 18 feet wide, you know. The living room is 40 feet by
Jody
27.
mentioned, well, you need to get some, we need to discuss this.
Yes,
This is
it's
new.
new.
And you ought to start getting some type of a square footage and get some sketches, just a,
I got a rough draft for you here.
okay.
Is there something that you can leave with us that then?
Oh, yeah,
we
you can have it.
Okay.
Also, I don't understand, if they're gonna come in off of Woodlawn Avenue, they're not coming into that property off of Market Street.
No,
So the address would almost have to be.
So they would
where they're
have,
coming
yeah,
in
they would
off.
have to apply for a new address through the Northumberland County GIS.
Exactly, and
Yes.
then it has to be, does it have to be separated, because you have two addresses on the same building? You have 448 Market Street and 4-something Woodlawn Avenue.
Okay,
But there's a good possibility they're gonna make it rear.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, but the access.
It sort of wouldn't be no different than the Market House right now. In the front, they have a Market Street address, in the back, they have Woodlawn Avenue address. And it's all one building,
Same principle.
same principle, yeah.
But are you talking about the Route 61 then?
Yeah, the apartments above it all have Woodlawn
Woodlawn
addresses.
Avenue, exactly.
Yep,
Because
and then the front has Market Street addresses.
That's what I'm getting at.
Yes,
You have two
yes.
separate egresses and entrances, so you
Yes.
have to have two separate addresses.
Yes, yes, yes.
we have no choice, for the taxes he's paying, he'd have to sell it, and of course he'd lose money. Here you go, I'll leave this with you.
Well, I was
Taxes on that.
before we down
You
there.
know, off the top of your head, what the taxes on here?
Pardon?
You know what the taxes are on that? Off the top of
Around $6,000, something like that.
your head? Is there a residential upstairs?
Yes,
Is it rented?
yes.
How many are upstairs?
Well,
One.
there's three, you mean separate units?
Yeah, how many units?
It's all one unit.
All one unit.
So he's
Back
getting
and front.
income off that one, that's it. It does say in the code that, and we were looking at this earlier, that the council can decide, or it does say that they have to maintain, if you move it out of commercial use to residential, you have to maintain some sort of commercial, it says in there, as now. And technically, he'd be doing that, but it doesn't say how much, so it's very, very vague, so we'd have to really look at that point. So, but at this point, you okay if we come back in
No, no problem.
2-3 weeks?
Billy, what's the overall length of that, about 150 foot, 160 foot?
What, pardon me?
The length of it from Market to Woodlawn?
Quote me, more than that, maybe an extra 20 feet, I'm not sure.
Okay.
Measure. On that draft, you'll see the footage as I work from the back to the front, and I should be able to give you
Is
the
there
main.
parking back there?
Yeah, yeah.
Is there? How many spaces?
Well, it's as wide as the building, and it's,
So that's where they used to park when they go to the club, right? I mean, I know some would park out front, but some park out back.
what club you talking about, not Route 61?
No, the gaming.
Bronx.
Yeah, Grogs.
Yeah, yeah.
Some
They-
people would park out back and some would
Yeah,
park out.
it's a big parking lot there, both sides, we have one side for tenants upstairs and one side for the other one, and then, of course, it's running up there, yeah.
Okay.
I'm done.
Next Heart and Heritage 250th Anniversary Committee meeting is March 26th.
Hey, I want to talk, oh, also,
We're not done yet.
oh,
March 26th at 6 p.m. in these council chambers. The next upcoming council meeting is February 10th and February 24th in these council chambers. Now it's open to audience comment. Does anybody have a comment at this time?
That would be when you.
That's you.
Kind of saw you jump.
Regina Russell, Sunbury Democratic Committee Woman for Ward 2. First, I'd like to congratulate all the new people on the council. Mr. Mayor, in the conversations tonight, I'm not sure about a couple of things. I just jotted down some notes. Are any of the buildings considered historical buildings?
Birch Street
I
is in the
find
historical
that-
district.
It's in the historical district, but it's not a historically significant building.
Okay. For the last decade, I think that the Sunbury Police Department has been neglected. We are moving into the future, and we need to have high technology. We need to have buildings that have access coming in for the public, as well as transporting prisoners in and out of the buildings. We have to think about public safety. We have to also think about the health of the police officers. They have been working in an environment that OSHA should be called in to investigate the building. You should be ashamed to still have them working in that building. As far as delay on this police having another feasibility done, that's ridiculous, because you wasted all of your time and now you can't move forward. You gotta delay the police department again.
We didn't
And,
delay. Nothing got delayed.
all right, so you're gonna still move forward.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're still setting meetings for all of our funding options. We're not stopping yet.
All right, well, thank you. I just wanted to make those points, that they need to have a new police department and they need it right away. It's a health hazard, it's a health environment hazard for everybody working in there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, next.
Hello, everybody. Would like to be to the councilman. My name is Dinos Panagures. You know, I got a 370 Market Street. And I want to know, you ask about 6,000 square feet for the police department? Only the ground floor got 7,000 square foot, plus the basement. So I don't know, the building got any sickness, leprosy, something? Nobody try, I'm trying for 10 years now and I pay the taxes for community college. So if the police department coming over in the ground floor and give it 10 years free and put community college over there, and that's over 30,000 square footages. What do you think about that?
What's the offer?
10 years free lease, pay the taxes.
For the first floor. If
For-
what?
For all buildings.
Yeah, I see that.
And you got the opportunity to make a community college, to help the people. And if you want to work for the best of the Sunbury, you can start with drunks and everything and make it better families. So for 10 years, move around and did nothing. This mayor tried to do something, but he got to have the other people to vote with him.
When you say 10 years free, does that mean what's considered in free?
No pay, no rent, nothing.
Are you talking about what we're in now, or we're talking about your building?
You're talking about his building.
For the building.
Your
No
building.
pay for 10 years, no rent, and pay the taxes.
That's what you're offering for your building.
Yeah, that's my offer for
Who's
the
gonna
building.
renovate it?
I renovate, yes.
You're gonna renovate it?
No,
Ah,
but if you bring a community college, that's not only the police department, this is the opportunity to make a more business of that. And bring some people in here to help all the homeowners. Because
one by one fell down and everything is going for crashes. What do you do? Nothing. You see, I spoke the other mayor for the generators of the
The Edison generator.
and Edison generator. He don't say nothing. He said, no parking. So, no parking. That's the excuses, no parking. I don't know. They don't like my face because I'm outsider like the newspaper writing 10 years ago. I'm trying for the best. I don't care about myself. I came in here for 10 years and tried to do community college to help this town. If everybody do it. With just the face. So what do you think?
I have a question. I understand you want to help the community, I get that.
Yeah.
Now, would you be up to other options for that building? I mean, is that, I mean,
We talk about
Does that offer stand outside the police department? Is that what you're asking?
I mean, for, let's say someone wants to come into
that. You
Sunbury.
say before 6,000 square footages. That's 10,000 on the ground floor. Plus the basement. The basement got destroyed because the water main was breaking from one side and destroyed the basement.
No, but I'm just asking, I mean, I 100% agree everyone wants what's best for the city, and I think, I mean, I appreciate you wanting what's best. Now, my question is, now you said it's free for, would be free 10 years for
10 years.
police department. Now, I'm just saying, does
Well,
that,
not for this police department.
oh, whatever.
For those people, they rent the 4 more floors.
So what I'm asking is, does that offer extend to someone who wants to start a business in there, for example, whether it's, I don't know, let's say a restaurant wants to come in there for 10 years, is that offer still open to them as well? Or is it only,
To open to them as well for 10 years.
alright, so you're saying it's open
Yeah,
to
whole
anyone?
building, whole building.
Okay,
Is the whole building free for 10 years?
Yes, to pay the taxes.
Just pay the taxes?
just pay the tax, and whatever,
I
obviously.
don't know
the
why, you people try to destroy me. I cried for 10 years in here for the best of the town. And nobody listens. The people die for the drugs, and the police can't do nothing, because if the police arrest the drug dealers, the next day is out. For what? Who's responsible for that? And punish the junkies, because the drug dealers make those people sick. And you punish the junkies and you send them to the jail. And the drug dealers walk free.
So I think this is a meeting. Are you fine with us scheduling a meeting with our city administrator and the solicitor to discuss it?
Anytime.
Okay.
I think that's what would have to happen.
Yeah.
Because we have to put something in contract and bring a contract here.
I came here in this country with $4 in my pocket. I work, I educate my kids, and I see people born here and the 3 generations stay in the welfare checks. Why?
Okay, you want me to arrange a meeting?
Yes.
Yeah, we appreciate your offer of trying to do it
Thank you.
within your building.
Oh.
Mr. Demos, what about your information? What's your phone number?
No,
Yeah, just do it.
I'll
Yeah,
we'll get it afterwards.
My phone number is 570-286-1081. And I got cell phone, but I'm not working on it.
Okay.
So that's for New York.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome, anytime. Like the president said, make America great. Make the Sunbury first great.
Thank you. Any other audience comments tonight?
I don't know, this up on, maybe I can this right. I have a concern on the one in 400 block on 4th Street,
Your name, ma'am?
Mary Simpson. Now, I don't know the exact date they installed a drain right beside CVS.
Oh, yeah.
And when heavy trucks go up through there, it shakes my house, her house, she lives in the 400 block also. So there's some concern that something's not right.
You said 400 block in North 4th?
Yes.
Both of these things unfortunately wouldn't fall under our control. That's that road, this is a drain.
So you're saying the PennDOT will drain it?
We'll reach out to the
Okay,
different
yeah.
organizations for
So
you.
usually
Okay.
the house shakes when trucks go by.
Yes.
Will they run over the drain?
The new
Well,
one
they
they
were
put
right
in?
beside it, yes. The new one was just put in.
Okay.
See, I was understood, I thought the city put it in.
No, that's, I forced it to stay.
Okay.
So we're looking into
But
that.
I was wondering because they're gonna pave the street once that's done, but then it's too late to.
to see you.
Okay.
All right,
Okay,
thanks.
thank you.
Any other audience comments tonight? With that, this meeting is now adjourned. Thank you all for coming out.